Good day, my beautiful Prof. Ed students. How are you? How are you doing now? I hope that everyone is doing fine. I hope that everyone is safe amidst the challenges brought by the pandemic. I hope that everyone is coping with all the requirements required to you in all your courses that you have enrolled for the first semester 2021-2022. So as you have observed, our life is becoming more complex, but I am hoping that we will make it until the finish line. Like I've said in our first video that ikaw at ako, kaya natin hanggang dulo, magkasama tayo. Okay. So today we are going to discuss the first topic in our course, that is metacognition, a pre-recorded lecture prepared for all the students enrolled in facilitating learning that is provided at Ateneo Vizcaya State University, specifically in the College of Teacher Education. In this particular lesson, we have two objectives. So, at the end of the lesson, challenge yourself to attain the following outcomes. Number 1, explain metacognition in your own words. Number 2, apply metacognition strategies in your own quest for learning as a novice and an expert learner. Towards the end of the presentation, we will talk about the novice and expert learners, and you will assess yourself what kind of learner you are at the moment. If you are a novice or an expert learner. So, it's up to you to assess yourself towards the end of our lesson. So, our for today in this particular discussion would be the most important goal of education is to teach students how to learn on their own. This means that we, teachers, have the responsibility, the calling and obligation to facilitate learning. So we are facilitators, we are not manipulators of learning. So we allow our students to learn by themselves while guiding them in doing so. We allow them to discover things, to apply formula that is easier to them, to write in the way they wanted to present a lesson in the way that's more comfortable to them. We allow and help them to discover things by themselves. And even themselves, they will discover their own selves, their strengths, their weaknesses. So by doing this, we are teaching them about life and not just about specific information. So, Cyril Howell, okay, Cyril Howell, a researcher also and a psychologist, once said that if you teach a person what to learn, you are preparing that person for the past. If you teach the person how to learn, you are preparing that person for the future. So, there's a big difference between teaching a person the what and teaching a person the how. There's a big difference between the two. Meaning to say, let us not limit the potential of our students. Rather, give them the opportunity to show off what they can. So, ipakita nila yung anong kaya nila. Ano yung kaya nilang gawin bukod doon sa ginagawa nila ngayon. Kasi push them harder and then lalabas yung kakayahan pa nila. No? So, if we teach them the what's, okay, or what to learn, we only expect specific answers and specific tasks to be accomplished. Isa lang. Kung tinuruan mo silang sumagot ng what, there is a specific answer that you expect from each and every one. But if we teach them the hows, or we allow them to grow and learn freely, we are teaching them how to live. Tinuturuan natin silang mabuhay. Tinuturuan natin silang dumiskarte ng sarili nila, no? Students should not be limited in a small space or in a limited space. As a teacher, challenge them to explore, thereby applying all their skills that make them survive a lifetime. Do not limit your students. So there, I repeat, my dear prophecy students, our basic task as a teacher is to what? To facilitate, that is, to teach our students, this is very important, how to learn. Okay, so moving on, let us now talk about metacognition. Some perceive that this is a complex topic. No? When we take a look into the word metacognition, mahaba kasi siya. So parang ang hirap-hirap intindihin ano ba yung metacognition na to. And at the same time, this word contains the word cognition. And sometimes, we tend to get bored when we talk about the mental process, the understanding experiences, and other perceptions on learning and understanding. However, we always do metacognition every day. So, let us look into the activity that you have accomplished in the first week of our meeting, no? I allowed you to answer pages 1 to 4 in the metacognition exam. And then, in the process, if you could go back, you remember that in the process of answering the items, there were times when you stopped to think. Tama ba yung sagot ko? Ito nga ba talaga ako? And then you reassess yourself. There are times also when you change your answer because you feel that the second choice was better than your first choice, right? So, same true with your studying, especially now that we are not going to school face-to-face. We are just meeting you virtually or through modules, no? Ibig sabihin, nag-aaral kayo ng sarili ninyo. So, you have to develop your own study skills or study habits in order, or study strategies, no? In order to understand the lesson on your own. So, you apply certain strategies so that you will be able to understand the lesson eventually. So, you tend to apply different strategies on how you are going to understand a certain topic or do a certain task. So, in doing this, while doing such, no, you were practicing what you call metacognition. So, it is very clear then that metacognition is the process of thinking about one's own thinking and learning. So, it is assessing your own way of thinking and your own way of learning as a person. And according to John Flavel, metacognition simply put as thinking about thinking and learning how to learn. So that is very clear, no? To easily understand what is metacognitive knowledge, Flavel divides it in 3 categories. So, let us look into the 3 categories that is being identified by Flavel. So, according to him, the 3 categories of metacognitive knowledge are number 1, person variable, this one. Next is task variable. And the last one is strategy variable. Remember that these 3 categories are interconnected. So, hindi sila pwedeng humiwalay sa isa. No? So, kung titingnan nyo yung ginamit kong presentation, talagang these 3 are interconnected. No? So, let's talk first about the person variable. The person variable talks about how one's view himself as a learner or a thinker. So, you're gonna assess yourself. You self-assess. What kind of learner or thinker am I? No? So, this is why you have to self-assess. You have to know yourself so that you can easily understand what task can you perform better. And another one, what strategy can you use to attain the task? Okay, so this is the way you see and understand yourself as a learner. So, person variable is the way for you to understand better yourself and assess, no? This is self-assessment. And at the same time, this is what you call self-awareness. So, maybe you gonna assess yourself and then you realize that, oh, I have a trouble memorizing facts, especially dates in my history subject. Or, I have a hard time memorizing formula, okay, in solving mathematics. Or maybe, you will assess yourself and realize that, oh, I'm a loner. Nahirapan akong mag-study kapag meron akong kasama or may naririnig akong ibang tao. So, I tend to study or understand the lesson well if I am in a certain space like my room or in the library. Or, there are also times that you assess yourself and then you realize that, oh, I can study well if I have music, no? So, you tend to put an earphones while you are studying. Yung iba naman, naiingayan sila, no? Maingay daw ang music, pero para sa'yo, pinakamaganda na merong music na naririnig. So, being aware of the type of learner you are will allow you to strategize on how to finish a certain task. This will also allow you to be more focused in doing such task. Okay, so person variable, again, knowing or assessing yourself what learner or thinker you are. Okay, moving on, let's talk about task variables. The task variables involves knowledge about the nature of the task as well as the type of processing demands that it will place upon the individual. So in here, you assess yourself on what capacity can you do things, no? What capacity? Anong kakayahan mo, no? This is knowing exactly what you need to accomplish. Okay? So kanina, dun sa person variable, kinikilala mo yung sarili mo, anong klase kang thinker. Dito sa task variables, kinikilala mo kung ano yung activity na kaya mong gawin at a certain given time, no? So, being aware of the task that you can do better and which can you do least, no, will somehow help you strategize also and plan on which specific strategy do you need to do in order to perform the task being asked of you. Okay, so being aware of yourself and being aware of the task that you can do at a certain period of time will allow you to strategize, no? And decide what strategy can you use. So example, you may be aware that watching a Korean movie with subtitles is way better easy to you than watching and understanding an English movie. So, what should you do now? Okay, alam mo na ay, pag may English sub pala, mas higit kong naiintindihan. So, malalaman mo na ay, kailangan ko pala ng subtitle kapag nanonood ako. Okay, so, another example, maybe you will say that, oh, the ideas in the next chapter is complex compared to the previous one. Mas mahirap yung ideas ng chapters 3 kaysa sa chapter 2. Okay, so there is comparison. You are aware what is easier and what is harder, no? So, you know which task now is easier and which is harder. That is what you call the task variables. Now, if you talk about strategy variables, this is the last one. It involves awareness of the strategy you are using to learn a topic and evaluating which or whether this strategy is effective. I repeat, it involves awareness of the strategy. You are aware of what strategy that you are using, no, to learn a certain topic. And at the same time, you keep on evaluating whether the strategy is effective. Like, you keep doing it, no, trial and error. So, strategy in accomplishing a task is very important and key factor in making that task successful in the easiest way. Why do we need to strategize? Because we need to find, okay, the way to do the task easier, right? So in here, in this strategy variable, it is normal that we do trial and error, no? Huwag kayong matakot mag-trial and error, no? Kung sa pamimili nga ng boyfriend nyo, nagta-trial and error kayo, dito pa ba sa study habits natin or sa learning natin, di ba? Mas dito tayo dapat nagta-trial and error because we are looking for the best strategy, no? So if we feel that a certain strategy we use is not applicable, what should we do? If we feel that the certain strategy we are using will fail us in the end, what will we do? So, we might try another strategy. Okay. Try to find something new. Don't ever, ever, ever be afraid in trying something new. So in here, you may try to scan the text first since it helps you understand faster. So, like if you are reading a novel, you are scanning first, or either you are reading the summary, right? Because for you, it helps you understand the context better if you start reading it. So, or if you do the long method in solving a mathematical problem, you will come up with the correct answer faster than doing the shortcut. So, there are some of you also that you find it easier to answer a mathematical problem, I mean, is if you use the longer method than the shortcut method, no? So, we keep on doing and remaking until we finish the task. So, the keyword, remaking. Keep doing and remaking until we finish that task. So again, these three variables are interconnected. So person variable, you should know yourself. Task variable, you know the task, the specific task that you can do in a certain period of time. And then strategy variables is your awareness in which strategy is more effective in fulfilling the task or doing the task. So if we talk about the strategy variable, we always come across with the terms meta-attention and meta-memory. So what is meta-attention and what is meta-memory? Meta-attention is the awareness of specific strategies so that you can keep your attention focused on the topic or the task at hand. While meta-memory is your awareness of memory strategies that work best for you. So, basically, while doing trial and error, no, in finding which is the best strategy that you are going to use, you will come up with the best strategy to accomplish the task that you need to accomplish now, no, at this certain period of time or at hand, ngayong oras na to. So, next time, when a similar task is given to you, you already is aware of the best strategy that you are going to use on that certain task. Why? Because you're gonna remember that, I have already done this in the previous. So you remember the strategy now that you have used before. That is what we call meta memory. I hope that you got it. Now, let's talk about the important key points in the practice of metacognition. I repeat, the important key points in the practice of metacognition. So, these key points were coined by a teacher and psychologist named Jean Omrod from the University of Northern Colorado. Omrod is known for her contributions in the field of psychological researches and books published on child development and education. She has also books on gender and teaching and children and youth. So in her study, she presented at least 8 key points in proactive metacognition. So we are now going to tackle it one after the other. So the first key point is knowing the limits of one's learning and memory capacity. Okay, keyword here, knowing the limits and then learning and memory capacity. So always remember that each of your students have different level of thinking. Same true, they have different capacity or limit in their own memory capacities also. So magkakaiba sila, hindi pwedeng genius lahat, hindi pwedeng magaling mag-memorize lahat. Magkakaiba kasi imagine the 50 students, 50 brains yan. 50 different attitudes, 50 different personalities, and 50 different memory and learning capacities. You should know your capacity and limitation as a learner. At the same time, you should be aware of the capacity and limitation as a learner of your students. That is why, in the variables presented earlier, if you could remember, you are required to know what type of learner or thinker you are, or your students. What are the tasks that you need to accomplish or you can accomplish at hand, and what strategies are best for you, or even a strategy that is best for you. So it's true in treating your students, no? You should be aware that these students have their own learning and memory capacity. Magkakaiba sila, may kanya-kanya silang learning and memory capacity. So you should also be aware of the amount of requirements or tasks that you are going to give them. So knowing or being aware of their limitation or their own learning and memory capacities, it will guide you or help you prepare the amount of requirements that you are going to give them. So, hindi naman yung, halimbawa, yung learning capacity nila equivalent sa isang timba. Ang prepare mo naman isang drum. So, anong mangyayari sa kanila, di ba? So, be aware. Please know the limits of the learning and memory capacities of your students. And you yourself also, no? Okay, next one. Knowing what learning tasks one can realistically accomplish with a certain amount of time. So, you should be aware of the amount of tasks your students can accomplish at a given time also, no? So that it will guide you in what task you need to prepare for them. So, kanina, yung limitation nila as learner. Ngayon naman, yung task na kayang matapos sa isang period of time or at a given period of time. So, at this point, you should understand well that your students are different from each other. Their capacity to understand and perform differ from their classmates, no? Hindi sila pare-parehas. That is why you have to prepare tasks that all students can achieve without sacrificing, of course, the most intelligent ones and the weaker links in your class. So, strategize on activities that cater all the students equally, not only few, no? But all your students. So if there are 50, prepare the activity that will cater to all 50 students, not only the 5 brilliant students in your class, no? Because dapat you treat them equally. Pantay-pantay dapat yan, no? Okay. Next one we have, next key point is knowing which learning strategy are effective and which are not. Okay. Lagi ko itong binabanggit, alamin mo alin ang strategy ang mabisa at alin ang hindi. Kung hindi mabisa yung strategy, kalimutan mo na. Kasi hindi ka nito magiging, hindi nito gawing successful yung isang task na gagawin mo, no? So as I have said a while back, after series of doing and redoing or the trial and error, you sure will come up with a specific strategy that is best for you. Of course, that is sure, no? So, you will come up with the best strategy that you can apply at a certain task. It is important then to know this, to know what strategy is effective and what is not, no? It is also important for you to allow your students to discover what strategy is best for them. So, do not impose because this would only limit their potential as learners. And then, teach them how to become independent, no, in finding their strategies that is effective with them, no. Never impose. So you should know which learning strategies are effective and which are not. Okay. Next one. Next important key is planning an approach to a learning task that is likely to be successful. How you approach task is very important, no? Learning strategies that, together with the philosophical concept, define the learning approach are the elements used by teachers to help students understand the information deeper and wider. So in here, you plan a method and process in implementing learning. See, because you cannot even implement a learning if there is no specific method or there is no specific process that you are going to follow, right? So be sure that the method and the process, okay, the approach that you are going to use is also in line with the strategy that you are using. Okay. Next one, using effective learning strategies to process and learn new material. So, what does this mean? Always consider the fact that we have various strategies that we can apply in learning new things. Oh? We can choose the best one and we are free to apply it with ourselves. If it is the case, then we should also allow our students to learn new strategies that will help them better. So give them the freedom to explore and then to learn which strategy can help them better. Moving on, next important key is monitoring one's own knowledge and comprehension. Here, the keywords here, monitoring, knowledge, comprehension. You should be aware of the new information. Okay. You should be aware that there is a new information, but that is not just enough. Anong ibig sabihin ng monitoring kasi dito? Hindi ka lang aware na may information na dapat matutunan, but you should be aware of the new information is processed and learned and understood or when it is not. Naintindihan ba? Na-process ba yung information? Naunawaan ba o hindi? Okay, so it will define whether the strategies as well as the approach applied is successful or not. So if the information was not processed, if the information was not understood by everyone, there might be wrong with the strategy that you have used. There might be wrong with the approach that you have used, no? So in case that you will find out that the information is not learned, what will you do now? You may want to try another strategy until the learning or the information is being processed successfully. That is the meaning of this. Okay. Next one we have using effective strategies for retrieval of previous stored information. So, keyword here, retrieval previous information. Okay. There is always connection of previous info to the new one and to the others in the future. So, you should know, we should think about it, no? And we agree that the previous information has something to do with the current one. And this current information has something to do with the future information that we learned. So, it's always fun to go back with the previous information because ito ang magtutulay sa bagong impormasyon na pag-uusapan natin sa kasalukuyan, no? At times, a current topic will be understood better if we're able to bridge them to the old info. So, it is like reviewing the past lesson, di ba? Kapag nagtuturo tayo, meron tayong review of the past lesson. Why? Bakit natin to ginagawa? This will allow us to understand better the task at hand, no? In here, we should think of the best strategy that will best allow us and our students to go back to the previous lessons, no? To learn them, to retrieve them, and reconnect them to the new one that we are trying to learn. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now, lastly, this is very important now. Remember, the last and the most important thing to remember here is knowledge is said to be metacognitive if it is keenly used in purposeful manner to ensure the goal is met. Okay? To ensure that the goal is met. So, sabi dito, knowledge is said to be metacognitive only if we use in a purposeful manner to ensure that a goal is being met. So, let us go back to the three variables a while ago that I have discussed, no? The person, the task, and the strategy variables. The knowledge and learning becomes metacognitive if these three work together. So, yung knowledge and learning becomes metacognitive only if the three functions. Hindi lang yung isa or hindi lang yung dalawa, kundi tatlo sila. The variable, the person, and the strategy. So, example, for the person variable, you are aware that, okay, you are aware that the self-awareness or the self-conviction, you know yourself. So, you will say, I am aware that, okay, that alone, that is statement alone, will manifest your self-awareness. Now, for the task variable, sasabihin mo na, oh, English is easier than mathematics. But among the three subjects, science is the hardest. So, pinakamahirap ang science, and then mathematics, and then pinakamadali sa akin ang English. So, you are aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. That is the task variable. You are aware which subject is easier for you, no? And then, for the strategy variable, what should you do? You might do all the requirements first in science, and then math, and then English. Kasi, sometimes, there are students who tend to do the requirements of the hardest subject first, and then papunta dun sa pinakamadali. However, if along the way, you might change your strategy, no? Kasi nga sabi ko, strategy is a trial and error type, no? Doing and redoing it. And then, you might change your mind and then, oh, I'll just start doing the easiest one and then to the hardest one. So, you may start doing your activities in English and then mathematics and then science because in your mind, hayaan mo na yung science na napakahirap, saka na, yun na lang yung mahuhuli. So, I have a longer time doing the task. So, in doing it, your task will be successful, no? This is when we finally say that the knowledge is finally called metacognitive. Okay, did you get it? So, if one of the variable is missing, can we call it metacognitive? The knowledge is metacognitive? It's a big no-no. Hindi pwede. Like, you know the type of thinker you are. Halimbawa, alam mo yung type of thinker you are. You know your strengths and weaknesses, but you did not strategize. That is not metacognitive. The knowledge is not metacognitive. You need to strategize in order to make it complete to meet the goal. So, if you know yourself, what type of learner you are, and you know your strengths and weaknesses, but you did not strategize, then no metacognition is applied. So, I'm again reiterating that the person, the task, and strategy variables are interconnected. Hindi pwedeng mawala ang isa. I hope that you got it right. Okay, let's move on. Let us proceed to the phases of metacognition according to Cambridge National Study. Okay. Pag-usapan naman natin ngayon phase. No? Actually, interconnected lang tong mga ano natin, no, mga pinag-uusapan nating topics. So, metacognitive phases, ayan. We have 3 phases of metacognition, no? These 3 phases are, ito, we have the planning, the monitoring, and the evaluation. Okay. So, in here, these 3 are interconnected also and is enclosing a certain important variable, which is the reflection. So, let's talk first about the planning phase. So, in the planning phase, learners think about the learning goal the teacher has set and consider how they will approach the task and which strategies they will use. So, you plan from the word plan. You know your strengths. You know what task is to be done. And you should know what strategies are you going to apply. So, at this stage, it may helpful if you students will ask yourselves, no? Sabihin nyo, tanungin nyo sa sarili mo, what am I being asked to do? Anong kailangan kong gawin? Which strategies will I use? Anong estratehiyang gagamitin ko? Are there any strategies that I have used before that it might be useful now? Meron bang estratehiya na ginamit ko na dati na pwede ko ulit gamitin ngayon? So, those are questions, no? That you need to ask in the planning stage. Now, what about the monitoring stage? Okay? So, it should be, medyo nagkamali tayo ng latag ng ano, no? Ito dapat, this one should be here in the monitoring stage. And sorry, no? In the monitoring phase, learners implement what? Oh, here. Ito dapat, nagkapaligtad. So, in the monitoring phase, learners implement their plan and monitor the progress they are making towards the learning goal. So, you are monitoring. I repeat, nagkapalit. Ito dapat ay ito. Okay, I'm sorry. And this is here. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so, monitoring. Students might decide to make changes to the strategies they are using if these are not working. So, you start to monitor. Start to look into the progress of the strategies that you've been using, no? So, as students work through the task, so it will help you if you gonna ask yourself, is the strategy that I am using is working? Okay. Ano ba? Is the strategy working? Or do I need to try something different? Do I need to try something new? So, these are the questions that you are going to ask in monitoring and monitoring of your strategies that you are using. And then, in the evaluation phase, this one guys, Students determine how successful the strategy they used was in helping them to achieve their learning goals. Okay. So in here, you have to evaluate, no? To promote evaluation, you students may consider asking yourself again, so, how well did I do? Gaano kahusay yung ginawa ko? What didn't go well? Saan ang mali? Saan ang mali? Saan ako nagkamali? What could I do differently next time? Anong pwede kong gawin sa susunod na iba sa ginawa ko ngayon? Or you may ask yourself, what went well? Alin ang magandang nangyari? Or you may ask yourself, what other types of problem can I use this strategy for? So, maganda tong strategy to. Alin kayang mga task ko pa pwede itong gamitin? So, those are evaluation phase, no? So, plan, this one, plan, monitor, and evaluate. In this process, we have here the certain variable. This is the reflection. And reflection plays the most important role. It encourages learner to, self-questioning. So, if you keep on asking yourself while doing a task or before doing a task and after doing a task, then you are applying what you call the metacognition. The process of self-questioning will support the reflection. So, at the end of the process, you will come to realize what kind of learner you are. Monitor what task you can easily do and evaluate what strategies can you use at a certain task. So, self-reflection here will enable you or enable us to understand learning better and easier. Okay, so I repeat again, these three are interconnected. And sorry if there is something wrong with the slide, but I hope that you got my point. Thank you very much, my dear students. Moving on. Let's move on with the metacognition strategies to facilitate learning. Metacognition strategies to facilitate learning. We have at least 7 strategies listed. First one is this one. Okay? Have students monitor their own thinking and learning. So, have students, nagpag-usapan na natin kanina yung monitoring, right? So, allow your students to monitor their own learning and their own thinking. Aside from self-awareness and evaluation, give them activities that will enhance their skills in monitoring their own performance. Like the activity that I gave you the first time, no? That you have answered all the questions, and then at the back of it, there is the way, or what you call the rubrics that you are going to use, no, in scoring your own self. So you are allowed to score your own selves. You are allowed to look into the scores that you got from each item, or from each part of the exam. So from that, you were given the task to monitor your own performance. Or maybe you allow your students to monitor the performance of their classmates. Maybe you give them dyad activities wherein students monitor the performance of their classmates. But the key point here is allow your students to monitor their own selves, or maybe allow them to monitor their classmates. No? So this will help them to become objective in everything that they do. No? O, magiging objective sila dito. Okay. Next one is the second. Teach students only or learning strategies. Teach students study or learning strategies. Teach students study or learning strategies. Keyword here, study, learning strategies. Okay. The best way to do this is what? What do you think is the best way to do this? Okay, as I've said a while back, allow them to explore. Okay. Remember that your students are a group of people with diverse personalities. They have individual differences. Therefore, no single learning strategy is applicable effectively to everyone on the same level, on the same phase, no? So it is then your responsibility as their teacher to help them discover which strategy is applicable to them, assist them in enhancing these strategies while allowing them to explore and discover more. Okay, so give them freedom to do it. So if we talk about this study or learning strategies, we always use the term TQLR for younger learners and PQ4R for older ones. So let's talk about TQLR first. Here. Under this strategy, we use this TQLR for, I repeat, the younger students. Okay. TQLR stands for the following. T stands for tune in. It is first important for the learner himself to be aware that he is paying attention and that he is ready. So be sure, before you're going to feed information or start the lesson, be sure that the child is ready to learn. Be sure that he is willing to learn. And be sure that he really wants to learn. So this implies the preparation of activities that will eventually motivate every child to undergo the learning process. So motivational activities are very important, especially if you are teaching the young ones, because they have a short span of concentration. So you need to get there to motivate them to concentrate or to listen to you. Motivation activities are very important. Okay. So if you do not motivate your students, they will not listen to you. That is true. So the first step really is to motivate them to listen to you. Okay. Q stands for question. Okay. Question. The learner is given questions or he thinks of questions about what he will soon learn. So maybe if you finish the motivation, the kids or the children will start asking you questions. No? So why? Because children are naturally curious and inquisitive. No? So allow them to ask questions. Hayaan nyo sila. And be sure to provide correct and straight answers to them to avoid confusion. So, never answer them with, vague answer. Yung hindi malinaw, nakakalitong sagot. Kailangan sagutin nyo sila ng exact terminologies, no? Never stop a child in asking questions, since questioning is a sign that he is learning fast. So, questioning also is a sign that he is observing his environment. Questioning is a manifestation that he is willing to explore. So, never stop a child when he is asking question. Maganda kayo nagtatanong yung bata eh. Kasi, ibig sabihin, interesado yung mag-aral. Eh, yung tahimik na bata, hindi lang ako sigurado kung nag-aaral yan o hindi. Di ba? So, allow them to ask question. That is why I also keep on telling you, no, if you need something or, you ask me question. Oh? Let's move on. L stands for listen. The learner then unintentionally exerts effort to listen. So, minsan kapag na-motivate mo na yung bata, no, and then you allowed him to question, syempre, aantayin niya yung sagot mo, and then intentionally nakikinig na siya. Or maybe unintentionally nga nakikinig na siya kasi kahit ayaw niya nung una, bigla nakita na lang yung sarili niya, nakikinig na pala. Pero they intentionally exerts effort to listen if they keep on waiting for the answers of their question, and then you have properly motivated them. He becomes aware if he is even if he is momentarily distracted, and goes back to listen again. So even if sometimes they are distracted, they always go back to listen to you because they are properly motivated, no? And they are waiting for the answers of the questions in mind. So when a child is properly motivated and is allowed to participate, I repeat the keyword, no? Allowed to participate. You give them freedom to ask questions. He will listen even with distractions, no? Because his attention is already being concentrated in the task or the topic that is being presented to him. So, kahit nandyan na yung ice cream sa kabilang kanto, hindi pa rin siya madidistract. Kasi nga, concentrated na siya doon sa kanyang pag-aaralan. R is for remember. The learner uses ways or strategies to remember what is or what was learned. So, after presenting to him the lesson or the story, example, the child has the capacity or has all the strategies, own strategies to retain that memory, no? So if a child is interested in the task or in the story or in the lesson, he will surely remember it. Remember that a child's brain is, hindi pa puno yung brain nila. So, pwede mo siyang lagyan ng lagyan at maaalala niya yon. So, he will naturally develop a strategy that will help him retain all what he have seen, lahat na nakita niya, what he have heard, what he have felt, smell, and learned. So, yun, ganun ka ang bata. Magaling ang bata. So, what you just do is to tune in, motivate, question, allow them to ask question and participate. You listen, okay? Allow them to listen and they will listen to you even there are distractions because they are properly motivated and they participate. And of course, remember, they have their own capacity to remember or retain what is being learned previously. Okay. For older students, the PQ4R is being applied, especially when studying a unit or chapter. Because older students like in elementary or intermediate, no, tinuturuan na natin sila ng per chapter or per lesson, So, what is PQ4R? So, P stands for preview. So, for students, they tend to scan the whole chapter before delving on each paragraph. So parang meron tayong style na parang titingnan muna natin yung kabuuan bago natin titingnan yung specific niya. So we also check out for objectives. Look for outlines or advanced organizers that will give you an idea about the important topics and ideas in the chapter. So, like what we did in the first chapter, that I allow you to answer the test on metacognition. So, at least, on the process, you already have the idea on what we will learn in chapter 1, right? And then, sometimes, we tend to read also the summary of the first chapter or even the summary of a novel. So, we go at the back, we scan the back page, the summary is there, right? And then we read it. But there is a great warning here, ha? Please, don't stop at the summary alone. Bakit? Pag binasa mo na yung summary ng novel, ay, alam ko na yung kwento, hindi ko na kailang basahin yung page by page. I know this story already. That is very wrong. Because, if you do not read the entire chapter, you must be missing something. A detail, an important detail. So be sure to read the entire chapter because as you do so, you will surely discover more information that will help you understand deeper the topic being presented to you. So do not just scan. You read it page by page, word by word. Okay? You got it. Q stands for question. Katulad din nung sa TQLR. Question, in here, read the guide questions provided or think of your own questions about the topic. So, iba nabasa mo na yung mga objectives, yung titles niya. Maaaring magtanong ka, ano kayang pwede kong itanong dito sa question? Kasi, dito sa topic, I mean. Kasi, minsan, nagkakaroon tayo ng alam mo yon yung nasa-challenge yung isip natin na magtanong tungkol sa possible topics that is coming in, no? So, you can find this in your modules or work text. So, this type of learning, no, yung na meron siyang katapat na mga questions or mga pangunahing questions na nakalagay sa lesson mo ay nakikita natin palagi sa mga modules or sa work text ninyo wherein questions were posted at the beginning of the chapter, no? So, what is the purpose of these questions that were posted at the beginning of the chapter, no? For you to have something to ponder before going through the discussion. So, this will somehow prepare you on what to expect in the entire chapter. Okay. Is that clear? Okay. Now, let's move on to the 4 R's of the PQ4R. So, ito na ngayon, meron tayong 4 na R. Ayan. So, we have here, read, recite, review, and reflect. Let's start with the first R, that is read, no? Check out subheadings as you read, no? Pay attention on the words that are printed in the bold or italicized, no? Find out the meaning of words that are not clear to you. Use a marker or colored pencil to highlight important words or phrases. Highlighting is very effective, especially if you will go back to the previous page you are reading. So it will make you remember facts faster. So that is why we are using highlighter, because we are aware that there are times we do not understand some terminologies. We tend to highlight it, or there are some statements that caught our attention, no? So we tend to highlight it so that if you go back to the previous pages, you can easily find it, no? And then always pay attention also to the bold, yung mga print, the words that are printed boldly, no? Yung mga naka-bold and naka-italicized. Because, kaya nga sila naka-bold or naka-italicized because kailangan mo silang bigyan ng attention, no? May diin doon, kaya sila iba ang pagkaka-print, no? Okay. The second R is recite. Recite. Work on answering the questions you had earlier. Do it honestly and do it sincerely. Okay. So in some of the modules that I'm preparing, I always always include initial activities. Okay, in the first page before this discussion, wherein I allow the students to answer it on their own. No, so answering initial questions will assess your understanding of the entire chapter. So after you finish reading or accomplishing what are being asked, what will you do? Compare the answer of your answers in the initial questions with that of the answers you gain or you made after the lesson. So meron ng comparison. So kung mataas yung score mo, ibig sabihin, mataas ang kaalaman mo tungkol sa lesson na pinag-aralan mo. Pero kung masyadong mababa yung score mo doon sa first activity, ibig sabihin ay mababa din yung pangunawa mo muna doon sa lesson na hindi pa natatalakay. Okay. Next one, we have the review. Okay, review. Pinpoint topics you may need to go back and read in order to understand better. That is why, ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina, we use markers or highlighters because we have some important ideas we tend to forget on the process, no? And not understand that much. So we always go back to it. In doing so, we can understand more that article or the story or the lesson that we were reading. It is also important to link what we are reading or learning to the past experiences or learning, since this will open new understanding and perspective to the present lesson. So remember that, okay? Important po yung pagka-connect ng mga information from the past to the present to the future information. And the last one we have, reflect. Think about what you read. Yan. Isipin mo yung mga binasa mo. And then you ask yourself again, katulad ng sa reflection kanina, di ba? Is everything clear to you? What are the main points you learned? How is this relevant or useful to you? This is going out from the limited space of the what's, no? So, pag nagtanong ka ng mga ganitong klaseng question, lumalabas ka doon sa limited space of the questions that answer the question what, no? Because sabi ko nga kanina, if we limit ourselves to the what's, then we only need specific answers to a specific task. But if you tend to reflect and ask more questions, you tend to go further and reflect. So we ask question to ourselves, we reflect, and the reflection that we are doing will what? Allow us to learn or understand the topic better. Okay, so I hope that you got it. Let's move on to the strategy. The strategies of metacognitive strategies. The third one now is have students make predictions about information to be presented next based on what they have read. Okay, so students have wide imagination. Remember that. Students have wide imagination. So, have the students make predictions, okay, about the information to be presented. Prediction is they're going to make it is to share something that will possibly happen, no? Na hindi pa nila nalalaman yung totoong nangyari pero nagpre-predict na sila. So allow your students to make predictions to what are the possibilities based on what they already new. So at the end, assess whether each prediction went well with what really happened. Especially if you are teaching short stories or, the literature, no? There are times that we ask our students, what do you think will happen to the character, to this character, no? And then they will tell you the predictions. And then sometimes we have wild predictions, weird predictions, no? And it will only prove that they have wide imagination, rich imaginations. By doing this, they will develop their skills in making possibilities and, of course, prediction. So allow them to give prediction. Next one, have students relate ideas to existing knowledge and structures. Katulad ng binanggit ko rin kanina, allow students to bridge their old knowledge to the new one. This is why we always need to encourage our students to what? To go back to their past lesson before proceeding to the new one. This is what you call continuity, no? So most of the time, the past lessons open understanding on the new lesson. This will allow students to explore the topic more and come up with better understanding and comprehension. The fifth one, have students develop questions. Okay, katulad nung kanina, di ba, sa TQLR, allow them to develop questions. Ask questions to themselves and ask themselves on what's going on around them. Allow students to self-question or reflect, no? It will give them opportunity to reflect, as I have said earlier, and to understand better. Let them develop their skills in questioning, because only then that they can interact more, understand more, comprehend more, and share more. So never limit your students. And then the next one, and the last one of the metacognitive strategies is show students, second to the last, help students to know when to ask for help. Okay. I repeat, help students to know when to ask for help. Keyword here, help. Dapat alam mo kung kailan dapat ng tulungan ng isang estudyante. So, students tend to pretend to be independent at times, di ba? They will pretend that they're okay, they can do it, kaya nila. And I guess that is actually a good trait, no? However, as a teacher, no, know when a certain students need assistance or know when a student needs a study buddy, no? Kasama niyang mag-aral. Let the student realize too that they are free to ask for help starting from you. Okay, so make them feel that they can come to you and ask for question or ask for help. That is why the first thing that you do as a teacher should build your relationship. Of course, there is always that border that will separate the student and the teacher. However, you have to let them feel that they are allowed to come to you anytime to ask for help, no? Especially if it's about the subject that they were enrolled in, no? So allow your students to come to you and make them feel that they are welcome. Only then that you can motivate them to ask for help from their classmates. So it is then that they will develop the social skills that they need in dealing with hard tasks. So, next time that halimbawa may group activities, hindi na sila matatakot magtanong sa classmate nila, and at the same time, they will participate already in the said activity. And then, of course, ito na pala ang pinakahuli. Lastly, show students how to transfer knowledge, attitudes, values, skills to other situations or tasks. So, allow students to strategize on various tasks. I keep repeating it. Allow them to strategize. Give them the opportunity to show off their ability to understand or to solve any problem. All you need is to assist them and to facilitate. This is the purpose of this class, to teach you how to facilitate your class in the future. So in doing so, you will be amazed to discover that your students are all skillful, no? They are all skillful and have the ability to handle whatever task assigned to them. Magtataka ka na lang, uy, kaya pala ni Mr. X, kaya pala ni Mr. Y, no? Hindi mo inaasahan. But all your students are bright. Kaya nila, of course, at different levels, at a different phasing, but you will come to realize and be amazed that, oh, my students are awesome and wonderful. They can do it. Kaya pala nila. You just need to trust them. So, you just need also to encourage them. And another one, you need also to assist them. Okay? So, allow them to know how to transfer or transmit knowledge, attitudes, values, and skills to other situation and okay. So, finally, we are going to talk about the novice and the expert learners. We shall now look into the difference between the two, and then later on, you gonna, tell me what type of learner you are. Are you an expert or a novice learner? So, in the past 20 years, cognitive psychologists have studied the distinction among the learners in the manner they absorb or process information. So, the manner they absorb the process information were used to distinct or to differentiate between the two types of learners. They are able to differentiate expert learners from a novice learners. So, a very important factor that separates the two, believe me, is the metacognition. Okay, so expert learners employ metacognitive strategies in learning. They are more aware of their learning process as they read, study, and do problem solving. Expert learners monitor their learning and consequently adjust their strategies to make learning more effective. So, let us look into the difference between the two types, no? According to the psychologists researchers. So, but before we go further, what is the difference between novice and expert? Yan. So, if we say novice, it means new or inexperienced in a field or situation. Baguhan at hindi pa siya madanas. Wala pa yung masyadong danas, no? While expert means having or involving comprehension and authoritative knowledge of skills in particular field of area. So dito, isa siyang mahusay. Mahusay na siya sa kanyang larang, no? So, now, let us look into the difference between the two. The first difference between the two in terms of knowledge in different subject area. So, knowledge in different subject areas. Paano magkaiba yung dalawa dito sa part na to, no? So, in terms of knowledge in different subject areas, a novice have limited knowledge in the different subject areas, while an expert have deeper knowledge in different subject areas. Why? Because they do not only look for a certain information, deeper ang knowledge ng expert learner because they do not only look on the certain information like the novice learner, but they do not limit their learning in an area. They do not limit in finding for the answer of the question what, but they tend to look deeper. They go to the questions how and why, no? They look into interrelationship in the things that they learn. So, no specific task or fact that they are looking, but they tend to go wider, no? Go deeper in certain topic. Hindi lang sila naghahanap ng iisang information lang. But mula doon sa information na yun ay pinapasanga nila. Dumadami yung information pang nakukuha nila mula doon sa isang information lamang. So, I repeat, they look into the interrelationship of the things that they learn. These are the expert learners. Next one, in terms of, let's look the difference between the two in terms of problem solving. So, in here, novice learners satisfied at just scratching the surface and because they are easily being satisfied with the first thing they discovered. They hurriedly give solution to a problem. So, Novice learners here will only look into the first solution that comes into their mind, and then they apply it. They hurriedly give the solution to the problem and then stop there. For them, it is enough. Sa kanila, tama na yun, okay na yun. But, hindi pwede yung ganun sa expert learner. For an expert learner, hindi pwede ang pwede na. So, what do the expert learner do? They first try to understand the problem. They look into the boundaries and create a mental picture of the problem, and before trying strategies until they come up with a good result. So they try. They look into the problem deeper. They create boundaries. They create a mental picture of the problem. Kung ma-imagine nila. And then they try to apply various strategies. Then after that, they come into a good result. Okay? So, hindi napapagod si expert learner to try and try, to do and redo, to do trial and error until such time that he comes up with a very nice solution or strategy to a certain. Okay. Next learning aspect is learning or thinking strategies. In this term, novice employ rigid strategies that may be appropriate to the task at hand, while an expert learner design new strategies that would what? Be appropriate to the task at hand. So meaning, compared to the novice, the expert explore various possible strategies until he comes up with the best. No? So, ito, yung yung expert learner, they design new strategies, no? Naghahanap lagi siya ng bago. Okay? Until they would come to realize what is that strategy that is appropriate to the task on that certain period of time. Okay. Next aspect would be the selectivity in processing. Okay. In here, the novice learner attempt to process all information they receive. Okay. So, he has no power to identify which task is to be processed first and which are not need to be processed. So, halimbawa, nandun lahat yung binasa mo yung you are allowed to or you are asked to make a report in a certain chapter. Ang ginawa ni novice learner, binasa niya yung buong chapter, tapos pre-process niya lahat, tapos inihalagay niya lahat sa PowerPoint niya, tapos ni-report niya lahat yung buong laman ng chapter. Samantalang, here comes the expert learner. What should he do? He tends to accept and process everything since, no. So, on the other hand pala, I repeat, the expert learner will, what should he do? He will, what should I say? Select the important information to process. No? If the novice learner will process everything because he have no ability to sort things which is important and which is not, which is to be needed to be processed and which is not, the expert learner comes in and then process the information after he break down the information to manageable and smaller chunks, no? So, hindi niya pre-process agad, kundi, ang ginawa niya, break down niya, in-identify niya, which information do I need to process, which do I need to put it at the side, no? At the side, na hindi ko na kailangang i-explain, hindi ko na kailangang isali, no? Hindi ko na kailangang i-process, or which are the information that I need to process later on. So, meron siyang ginagawang identification or the breakdown of the information. So, ito pinaka-importante, so I have to process it now. And then, ito naman ay medyo process ko na lang later. Or kumbaga, ito yung dulo ng discussion. And then, ito ay hindi na kailangan, wala na siyang kinalaman. Kahit hindi ko isali, hindi maapektuhan yung kabuuan ng aking information na i-share sa iba. Okay? So, in this case, when this novice, this expert learner, if he break down information first to the manageable and then smaller chunks before processing it, he will not be exhausted in the end, no? Because what he process are the important ones only. which he distinguished from the beginning. So, yun ang pagkakaiba. No? So, yung novice, lahat na lang pre-process niya. Yung expert, pinipili niya kung anong dapat niyang i-process. No? Okay. And the last one, last learning area that we are going to look into to identify the difference between a novice and an expert learner is the production of output. Ito na. Pag-usapan natin yung output. Paano kayang output ng novice at paano ang output ng expert learner? The novice learner here, in this particular area, do not examine, do not examine the quality of their work, nor stop to make revisions. Okay. I repeat, in this particular area, this novice learner do not examine the quality of their work or stop to make revisions. Rather, he accepts the first output, no? He accepts the first output and is contented with the product without exploring several strategies that may come up with a better outcome. So, kapag may product na siya, sasabihin niya, okay na to, pwede na to. He did not try to do another strategies that might come out with the better result, no? While, here comes Mr. Expert, no? Ito naman si expert learner, he checks their errors and redirect their efforts to maintain quality output. He comes with quality and all his products are products of several strategies, products of trial and error, doing and redoing until it becomes perfect. So, it also depicts the learner's attitude towards learning, that an expert learner never gets tired of exploring new things and doing it in the most effective way. So, hindi napapagod si expert learner, no? In exploring. So, there. From all that I have discussed, from all the things that I have explained, where do you belong now? Are you a novice learner or are you an expert learner? Of course, only you can decide and tell me. Since no one knows you better, okay? I do not know you better than yourselves, no? So, you know whether you are a novice or an expert learner. So, we have now to realize that at this point in time, we have been here in the academy for a long time now. So, like for me, I have been here since I was 21 years old. I've started teaching already after graduation. No? So, although there was time that I did not teach, but I have to go back to teaching again because this is really my calling, my passion, and my mission. No, so I have realized that I have been here in the academy for the longest period of time now. So, I have observed that many people or many teachers are retiring already, while many are coming in. So the number of education students, especially in the College of Teacher Education, is increasing each year. And that is something to be celebrated. Of course, I am happy that you want to become teachers. Okay? I am happy and I am celebrating with you. I celebrate with you in choosing College of Teacher Education and for choosing your courses, no? It's either you are BPE, you are BS Ed, or you are BE Ed, right? So, for choosing to enroll education, I congratulate you. So, as future teachers, no? As future teachers, we should be catalysts of change. So, catalyst of change, pagbabago. So, you should start advocating that we came from this, no? From this statement, saying, too often, we teach students what to build, but not how to think. Okay, so there are times when this happens, no, that too often we teach our students what to think, the what's, no, but not how to think. Hindi natin sila tinuturuan kung paano talagang mag-isip, and that is wrong. So, we should be catalysts of change, as I have said. We have to advocate that from this, we should come to this. Ito, sabihin natin na, if you teach the person what to learn, you are preparing that person for the past. If you teach the person how to learn, you are preparing the person for the future. So start advocating it to yourself now. okay, future teachers. And when you land a job, and then at times you lose your focus due to the stress, no, from teaching, from other jobs, from life's challenging, okay, challenges that brings you, no, always remember to go back to your core. And I would appreciate if you remember today, remember that I have met you all. Remember that you met me via online. And remember that this particular day, we all agreed that the most important goal of education is to teach the students how to learn on their own. Okay, I repeat. We should always go back to this day that you and I agreed that the most important goal of education is to teach students how to learn on their own. So we do not teach them the facts, no? We teach them life. We teach them how to live. No? So remember that. Remember that you are facilitators of learning. Did you get it? I hope that you learned from it today. Thank you so much, my dear students, for your time. I hope that today I gave something new to you, and then you learned something new from me. For your evaluation, please refer to the lecture that I have sent you in your Google Classroom, no? And in your classwork, I have already uploaded your lesson there, the copy of your lesson, which also contains the evaluation. So please look deeper into it, and then if you have already accomplished it, please send it back or turn it to our Google Classroom. So for questions, for inquiries, for clarifications, please contact me on our official FB page, that is Astrid's Classroom. So again, this has been Ma'am Ash saying, sa ating classroom, lahat ay matututo kahit magkakalayo. Salamat po. Kamsahamnida.